Martha Clarke started coaching in 2019 after a lengthy career in manufacturing operations management. She moved into coaching after seeing where a coach could really have helped in the spaces she operated in. She mostly coaches local businesses and nonprofits. She's also a fellow faculty member of the Center for Executive Coaching. Martha has lived and worked abroad and now lives in South Carolina with a few too many rescue dogs, but she's having the time of her life. I'd now like to welcome Martha to the interview. It's so good to have you here today, Martha.
Thanks very much, Michael. It's great to be here today with you.
I've been looking forward to this for some time because we are fellow faculty members of the Center for Executive Coaching, and I know that we have a lot of members that would be excited to hear from you offline, so to speak, even though this is online. But I think you know what I mean.
I do. I think I do. Yes.
Yeah, so let's just jump into it with the first question. You've been in the coaching space for about 5 years now. How do you feel coaching has changed over that 5 year period?
Mm, Great question. When I started was in 2019, and as I was finishing up my program at the CEC, and I was getting all sassy about, I might be getting my ACC hours and stuff like that. Now the pandemic hit, and so a couple of things, right? So a lot of people came into the coaching space because perhaps they lost their job, or there was a reason they want to maybe do something different. Now might be the right time, or they were laid off, or there's a great resignation where people that became a little bit disillusioned. They were like, I want to do more. So people into that space became much more popular than what I sensed when I was going through it in 2019 before the pandemic. And the pandemic, I think, really helped people evaluate their lives and figure out what they wanted to do, both as people being coached and then also as people wanting to help in that space be coaches. I think the other thing that's somewhat related to that is new coaches wanting more to get their accreditation, to get credentialed so that they can differentiate themselves amongst the sea of coaches that could be there. And then lastly, I really love this. I wish I had known more about this in my workspace when I was still working, is this concept of team coaching. I know team coaching from process improvement, black belt stuff, like that's a thing, but to really get into team coaching with the space that we're looking at, it's so phenomenal. So those are some of the trends or some of the things I've seen that have changed.
Yeah, those are all ones that I would say that I've seen too. Tell us a little more about the work accreditation. I'm not sure exactly what that is.
When I'm sorry, work accreditation, coaches wanting to be accredited versus I'm just going to learn how to be a coach.
Ah, okay.
So more
Yes,
of a drive for the accreditation.
they're definitely a strong movement that I've seen as well.
Yep.
So this is true. And then the rise of virtual coaching has been really significant since the pandemic.
I love it. Personally, I love it, right? That was my secret dream is, gee, could I actually do this out of my house? And it's come true. So very
Hmm.
lucky. Very
Yeah,
lucky.
yeah. For me too. What do you think new coaches should know to be successful?
Um, I would not have been able to answer this if I didn't have the opportunity to teach for the CEC. So what I've noticed is I think it would be helpful if the coaches could remember that if they were successful in their last career or where they just came from or where they are, they're going to be successful in coaching, right? I'm a firm believer in past performance predicts future performance. So it might be a different skill, it might be a little tweak, it might be something like that, but they will be successful. So to believe in themselves, that they're learning a new skill. This isn't a muscle that they've actually exercised before, right? Some of us, I don't know about you, I was on Andrew's first class and I was like, oh my God, I quit my job to be a coach. I've never coached a day in my life and I thought I was a coach, and all right, it's like, oh, this is different. This is a new skill. And like all new skills, you need to practice it. So I think, don't forget, you got to practice it. You're not just going to magically be perfect. That is the third thing I had written down, practice, 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 right? It's just, the more you do it, the better you're going to get. It may be one thing to know it intellectually, to look at tools and processes and frameworks and assessments, but another to actually do it and work through it is you just have to do it, and you're going to skin your knees probably a couple times, but it's going to be fine. And last but not least, trust and follow the process. There is a process. It works. It helps your clients get really super results. So don't be afraid to follow the process.
Great tips. I just heard a newer coach saying that same thing the other day, that I just need to lean on the process, and it works really well. It's true.
Yep.
And clients will follow the process if you guide them through it.
Yep. Yep.
Great. Well, what are the keys that have led to your success as the owner of a small business providing coaching services?
Yeah, there's a couple soft things and I think there's a couple hard things. I think
Mm.
being customer centric, really listening to what the client needs and maybe perhaps working backwards on what is it that you offer? What is the need? One size maybe doesn't fit all. So it might be a custom approach. Um, Asking the questions, what are your pain points? What are you experiencing? How can I help? They might have an issue that it might not be your thing, but you could go back and tweak it a little bit and it might be what they need, might be what they need. And this is the hard tangible pieces. You know, if it's a hobby, you might not take it so rigorously, but I find that a 1, 3, 5 year business plan will actually help you meet your goals that you've set out for yourself. So take the time to do the business plan, figure out what you're going to do. You don't have to do it all the first couple months, but to have that structure in place of what your goals are over that period of time is going to, I think, help you pay dividends to yourself.
That makes a lot of sense. When I first started out, I actually purchased a franchise, believe it or not, in
Mm.
the business coaching space. And what was good about that was that I had a mentor assigned to me
Oh,
from the
cool.
operations team, and they worked with me for the first few years of the business. And it was really helpful because they would push me to do some of those things that you talk about. So just putting a plan together. What's your plan?
Yep.
How are you going to succeed in this business without a plan? So
Yep.
it's
Yeah.
it's good.
There's a saying somebody said, there's two sayings like from my work world, there's 100 sayings really, but one is the clean desk is a sign of a disorganized mind. So that's not really what I was going to say. But if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So
Yeah, or the quote from Wayne Gretzky, you miss all the shots you don't take.
I love it. Yep. Yep.
And this idea of having services that you might need to adjust a little bit or tweak a little bit because a lot of situations are different and unique. And that's what's nice about owning a boutique coaching business, is that we can customize and tailor our
Hmm.
services to meet the needs of our client. And I know from my experience over the years that organizations love that. They love when you can customize what you're offering rather than
Yeah.
just providing a cookie cutter product.
For sure, for sure. And you look more, I think, credible actually, right? If you're a one trick pony, if there's anything outside that trick, you can't do it. But if you really can kind of bob and weave, not in a evasive way, but to
Mhm.
respond to what they need, you just look so much more credible and they'll ask you to do more work.
So I'm often asked how to secure sponsored coaching clients. What is your answer to that question?
Well, it's I'm going to tell you what I think.
Mhm.
I don't have a ton of them. I don't have a ton of them because of something that happened because of when I started.
Mm.
But what I would say is look for the intersection of what you love to do and where people have issues or concerns or problems, however you want to frame the opportunity. See if there is an intersection there or something very close to it. Because if you're really going to do it, and you're going to do a lot of it, it needs to be something that you love to do. So have a lot of conversations, figure out who your target companies are you're going to talk to, what are their issues, see how you can help them. See how you can help them. The reason I say it changed when I first started coaching, I got asked to come on back into my old organization and quote on a lot of business. It was a Fortune 500 company. They go, "You understand us. You understand what our issues are. You're an executive coach. We do this a lot. We want you to bid on everything." I pulled everything together. I remember coming to class and Andrew goes, "Do it. Just I remember saying, I have this problem. It's like, it's not a problem. It's a great thing. And then the pandemic hit, right? And so it was kind of funny. So then everything was a screeching halt. And I went, okay, what's plan B going to be? What is plan B going to be? And I said, boy, I don't want to. Right in the pandemic lasted a long time and nobody was really kind of talking for a while. So this gets to one of your questions later. I was able to figure out how to be flexible and know what the skills were. And so one of your questions later is about other coaching platforms. I actually started working on a coaching platform at that time. I developed the products, I developed the things that I wanted to do for my own business, and it's there if I ever need it. and I haven't had to need it for a variety of other reasons. So it's there. So you just be ready. Try to be ready if you can.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think distinguishes great coaching from average coaching? Because you're an instructor, you're also a mentor coach, you've observed a lot of coaching. From your perspective, what do you think makes the difference?
I didn't know this until maybe the last couple months, Michael.
Mm,
And what I would say is I do firmly believe in process. I do believe in asking good questions, the active inquiry, the active listening, all the good stuff we learn.
mhm,
The thing that I didn't recognize until I had a couple folks that were really their groove was pretty deep in the consulting space, right? And they couldn't jump out of the groove when they were coaching. The reframe for me, and then I went, I'm going to try that more. So use your intuition, use your experience, all that experience instead of giving advice, use your experience and your intuition to ask really good questions because their spidey sense, as I call it spidey sense, I hope you don't mind, is pinging something. They know something's really, really important here, but to use all of that, I do this analogy, get it right up to your lips, but don't say it. Use that intuition to ask that really impactful question that's going to make the shift for the client, because that's what all their experience is about. That's what they want to help people, but it's not to give advice, it's actually to coach. So that would be what I think distinguishes them. And like I said, to truly listen, really listen and be present. And the intuition piece, maybe couple it with, if I was in their shoes, what question would I need to hear to get the shift? If you can kind of transport yourself, maybe not in the first couple sessions, but when you really know a client, you know them pretty well, what might be the most impactful here to help them? So probably lean on the intuition part.
right. Yeah. The second part is also kind of leading back to the first part when you think about it. It's so interesting that you said that, Martha, because I write a monthly newsletter, and every month I come up with one original article that I'm going to put into that newsletter. And the latest is about how to level up your coaching to become even more capable and skillful. And it was about intuition. I wrote an
Oh,
article about
okay.
leaning more on your intuition, that I really think that this is what distinguishes you from any other coach, is that your intuition is like your fingerprint. It's not going to be duplicated by any other person. And it's what you can bring to the coaching space, which
Right.
is not advice. It's not telling them what to do, but it is being a fully present
Hmm.
co-creator of what's going to happen in that conversation. And if you
Absolutely.
don't tap into that intuition, you're missing out on something that could be really uh, valuable and a strong contribution to what comes about.
Yeah, and I think to piggyback on what you're saying, with all the bluster and good news about I got a little bit nervous when I first saw AI coaching bots come out. What's your
Yeah.
problem today? What's this, that? Well, that's more formulaic. And if we don't bring ourselves, our unique self, authentic sometimes is used too much. If we don't bring who we are and our style and our personality, the reason people coach with you is because you're decent, right? You're a decent coach. The reason they stay with you is because there's some kind of chemistry there, and you
Mhm.
know and understand each other and trust each other very, very much. And so to not capitalize on that, and to, strong word, withhold that from your client, maybe isn't helping them get the best result that they could possibly get.
Well said, Martha.
So,
So now I'd like to get a little bit technical, because we have a lot of newer coaches that watch the videos on this channel, and they're looking for ideas that help them to be more successful. And I often get questions around structuring coaching engagements, like, am I putting this together the right way? Do I have the right elements in there? So how about you? How do you like to structure a coaching engagement? What do you usually put in there in terms of any tools that you might use, like assessments or
mm,
360s? What length would you usually coach for? How
yep.
often would you meet? Do you set objectives right at the beginning? Like, how does all that work? If you could take us behind the scenes, that'd be terrific.
Sure. So that's where we end up. So if I may, I color outside the lines a lot. So I would I learned, right? A coaching engagement could be this long, it could be less long, it could be this long. It might be weekly in the beginning, and then you have a cadence that as things progress, it stretches out. If it's business, it might be really hot and heavy the first 8 weeks till you get a bunch of stuff covered and understand where you are in your finances, and then you put it into, we're going to check periodically. The so what of that is, it for me, it kind of depends. It kind of depends. And so I have a list of assessments we could use, right? We know what assessments we could use for what reasons. We know what the standard lengths could be or not. It depends on what the client's pain point is, and is the payoff going to be there? So where it all starts for me, Michael, let's think of that as I have this like on a menu over on the side in the back of my mind. So that's what's behind the curtain, is what our options are, where we could pull from things to make the engagement. But the biggest thing, the keyhole is the person coachable, and I call that the chemistry check. So the very first thing is a conversation. It might be at a Starbucks, might be with a cup of coffee, might be, hey, let's meet and see if we jihad together or gel together. And that's where I'm really listening very carefully to the words they choose. Now, this is funny, right? Because this helps me get at how coachable are they? Are they empowered? Do they want to get it? What kind of energy are they using when they're talking about the problem? Are they talking about they, them, somebody else, or I need to do this, right? What kind of responsibility am I hearing? How quickly, I'll find out how quickly they want to go, and that might impact, do we meet twice a week? Or is this something that is important to do when we have a longer duration, or is it something that's white hot and we need to go quickly? And so as a result of that conversation, you get a sense for what the problem is, I call it the size of the prize. Am I getting a sense that there's something there? With younger folks, sometimes there's an aspect of emotional intelligence maybe that needs to be tapped into. Maybe with older, more experienced managers, that's not there. So I'm listening for what thing do we think they might need. I might use a Lencioni team thing if it's a team dynamic and people don't trust each other, right? So from that, the original chemistry check, or call it lack of, anything else, we're assessing whether it's right to work together. Then I would say, so what I think I hear you say is this, reflect back all that good stuff and say, how does this sound? And right there, say, this is what I see, right? And they'll say, what do you recommend? I say, well, we could go this, this, or this. And it could look like this, and have that discussion, and then circle back with the engagement after you've agreed on what you want to do. But to really, that session might take 45 minutes, might take an hour. I personally don't charge for it, because I've had some clients that were non-coachable and it was not worth it was really hard, right? So I think that's a good investment for me to understand if it's even worth going any further. Sometimes it might just be the conversation and the clarity they get through the questions, like, I never thought of that. I never thought of that.
Mhm.
So that's a really lame answer, I'm sure, but it's really if you listen to what
It's
it is,
real.
you're actually customizing it to their need, and so they perhaps feel heard.
Now, what about length of engagement? Do you typically work with clients for 3 months, 6 months, 12 months? Like what do you usually propose in the beginning?
It depends on what the issue is, right? So it's what I found out during the pandemic. It was kind of funny. I was in a networking group, BNI, and
Hmm.
it was a great place to meet people because I'm an introvert. I can't think of anything worse than going and meeting new people. I would sooner have all my teeth pulled. But if I had to show up every week and talk about what I did for a business, right, that I could probably do that because it was a requirement, right? So I did that, and I met a ton of people. And what I did at first was do business coaching for people when the pandemic hit. Honest to God, I joined the group in the pandemic, everything shut down the next week. So I just met with people and I helped them do their business. What I found out is I could actually help them structure their business plans in probably an hour and a half, and they were good for a year. And so I just did that as a service. So if somebody needs something short and sweet, then we do something short and sweet. Like if they just need some structure on how to do a plan. But if somebody needs something like, I really need a thought partner, I need a sounding board, I need somebody, then those engagements would be 6, 9, 12 months, because it depends on how big the change is that they're going through. Like I've got clients that like I said, I coach on a coaching platform that have come back. They're on their third round of engagements because they like to have, they keep going through this space of reorganization, right? That's been a constant trend over the course of the pandemic. And you're there as a constant during all of these changes that they go through. So I think it just really depends what they're going through and how best to support them.
Right, right. And it kind of takes me back to what you had said earlier that people who are successful in this business tend to be flexible and adaptive and able to meet the needs of the client rather than pushing a specific off-the-shelf package onto them.
Yeah. You
Mhm.
know, and maybe that's, I'm going to be honest, you know, I can be an extrovert for a while, but to do it all the time, if I'm true to myself now in this space, that's not, I can do it if I have to, but I don't feel comfortable selling. And it took me a while to wrap my head around what that looks like. So in my mind, I've reframed the whole thing into a conversation about help me understand what you're going through, and we'll see if there's a fit. And that kind of just turned the whole table on it. And that dialogue is now easier for me to have versus well, I do this, 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 I can help you here. It just is more of it's a more organic conversation. And that just is easier for me personally. That's a personal thing.
And if it's easier for you, then you're generally more comfortable. And when you're more comfortable, then the natural chemistry can happen between the two of you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've gotten lucky that way.
yeah, yeah. That's great. All right. Now you mentioned coaching platforms a couple of times in this conversation, and I'm often asked about that too. What do you think about joining a coaching platform that provides you with coaching work at lower rates to get started? Because a lot of coaches wonder about that.
I, it's been a godsend for me. Michael, I'm 62, right? When I started this journey, I think I just turned 58. I knew I was going to have an encore career because said, I want to do what I love. I mean, did high volume, high speed packaging. Okay, that doesn't always fill your soul, right? So it's like, it's so the part I loved was working with and developing people. So it was a natural segue, right? And so, it served a purpose, right? Because like I said earlier, when I started, the pandemic happened, and what it allowed me to get the practice that I needed. All right, I was already PCC certified when it popped up, and how do I say this? I live in a small rural town in the South. Coaching here is equated to, is it is it like getting your nails done or a pedicure? Because there's not a lot of industry here. There's not a lot of big business. And so it's kind of so locally where I said I'm want to give back to my community, it's not like in the corporate space, if that makes sense. But the fun part, and I like to have fun, the fun part is the clients I get to work with. I would never have that opportunity to be challenged and to work with people through these situations. And actually I'm able to help them go through the reorgs. How do they put themselves in other people's positions, helping them get over the imposter syndrome, right? That seems to be so prevalent right now. I find that I just feel good when I do it. So it works for me. It works for me.
Yeah, thank you for sharing about that. I worked for a platform for 5 years, actually. Just recently completed that 5 year run with them, and they introduced me to clients that I probably would have never met, never been able to work with, and certain companies that in different industries than I had worked in before,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
just introduced a diversity to my work, and I was able to see how a larger company operates that provides
Yeah.
coaching to people even
Yeah.
globally across
Yeah.
different lines of service, and I was able to get an inside look at how they structure engagements in the process. Not that I'm taking anything from them, it just helps fuel the creativity in my own mind when I see
Yep.
how other people do their thing
Yep. Yep.
and manage their coaching engagements and so forth. So it was really helpful for me and a valuable experience.
Like yesterday, I lived overseas for a while, right? And I just was like, wow, this is cool. Like to see how other people do stuff. And yesterday was a fun morning. I started with a woman in Ireland, and then my gentleman, and he's going through some reorgs. They've just done 2 acquisitions. Where he is, he's a new leader, and I helped him get through these 2 reorgs. He's in Amsterdam. I'm like, how fun? How fun is, I mean, I think that stuff, like I'm an introvert, yes, but I love learning about other people and what they work through and helping them and work through things. So, and it cracks me up. I don't know anything about IT. I don't know anything about computers, but that's where when I say like just trust the process helps you really help these clients get super duper results.
Yeah, well, two things that I think people can kind of glean from what you have said is one, you can absolutely be successful as a coach as an introvert, as Martha,
Yeah,
you've
yes.
said that a couple of times, right? And two, it doesn't really matter where you live because of
True.
the virtual tools that we have available to us today. You can be a successful introverted coach living in a rural southern town and still work with people around the world and have a lot of fun doing it
Yep.
and make a living. So it's really cool to see that.
Yep. I mean, I'm having the time of my life. It's like, really? Is this possible? Right? There's no
Mhm.
big productivity planning we need to do. It's just like, oh, this is great. So
Mhm.
I guess what they say, when you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. So,
Mhm. Yeah, the other thing that's coming to mind too is coaching can provide a steadying force in a world of rapid change for our clients,
oh
because
my
you
gosh, yeah.
mentioned this a little while ago that some of the clients actually want to stay with you because you're something they can count on. In a world that's just swirling around them and the organization continues to change, you're there. You're there as that steadying force. And I think that is really something that leads to peace of mind, a
Hmm.
certain presence of mind to be able to just maybe think more clearly in these conversations that they have with you. So I'm getting that out of our conversation as well.
Yeah, it's really, I find it very humbling to like, I had a gentleman this morning, and he and I are on our 3rd engagement together. And he's,
Mhm.
you can just, this was the first engagement topic, and then this, and now this. And there's a space that he's in now about acquisitions. He's getting a more global exposure. And so he goes, I'm really interested in what are your thoughts about manufacturing? I've got this thing in this other country. What about this? And I said, well, now that's interesting. I said, well, because it could be this, this, or this, right? He's like, and he goes, I don't even know what you're talking about. I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, I only think of it from this angle. And I went, he goes, I think about it from the product angle. I said, oh, now that's fascinating.
Mhm.
I didn't ever think about it from the right, because I just took it for granted based on my experience. He goes, but you just mentioned something that we don't even know exists, right? So there's also some give and take in terms of sharing observations, or what do you think? Because you're
Yeah.
like a trusted person with them. They're gonna banter stuff off of you, and you'll be that sounding board for them, and then they can go and ask better questions for themselves, right? So it's
Yeah.
just really it's just like very humbling and rewarding too, right? Very
Right.
rewarding. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Yeah. Thank you very much, Martha. This has been a really great conversation.
well,
Uh,
thanks.
I knew it was going to be because we are both active in the coaching community and we've been around and worked with a lot of newer coaches, and I just knew that you had some insights that would be valuable for newer coaches to hear who may not have the opportunity to work with you directly as members of the Center for Executive Coaching do.
Hmm. Hmm.
But if this interview has whet your appetite for learning directly alongside Martha or possibly myself, then I would love to hear from you. Please email me at michael@baerexecutivecoach.com or visit the Center for Executive Coaching and learn more about the programs that Martha and I run there alongside the founder, Andrew Neitlich, and see why it's such a great place to establish your career as an executive and leadership coach.
Yep. Mike, thank you so much for the opportunity to come and talk with you. And I'm sorry if I talk too much. You're like,
At all.
you are not an introvert, lady. And anyway, thank you for the opportunity.
It did make me wonder, Martha, when you said that. I'll have to
You're
say,
like,
yeah.
nobody, people are like, no, you're not. I'm like, so anyway, fake it till you make it, right? So
Yeah, it's been wonderful. Thank you very much once
thank
again.
you very much. You take care. Be safe. Okay.
All
See ya.
right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.